Your brand may be staying on top of current trends, but are you agile enough to stay relevant, resilient, and successful as customers, competition, and the world continues to change at a breakneck pace? I'm thrilled to share the newly revised version of my first book, The Agile Brand. I'm calling it The Agile Brand Revisited. It's been updated to reflect our continually changing world, and it provides 7 principles that form the backbone of an agile brand, offering detailed insights and actionable steps for incorporating them into your business strategy. This is the book that started it all, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's now available in print and digital formats and available everywhere. Learn more by going to the Agile Brand Guide website at www.agilebrandguide.com. Welcome to Season 5 of The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom, where we talk with enterprise and technology platform leaders about the people, processes, and platforms that make marketing and customer experience successful, scalable, and sustainable. This is what creates an agile brand. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advisor and consultant for Fortune 1000 marketing and CX leaders and teams as principal and chief strategist at GK5A, and best-selling author, keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and agile certified coach. The Agile Brand podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To sign up for the Agile Brand newsletter and get the latest insights and articles on marketing technology and CX, or to purchase a copy of my latest book, House of the Customer, go to gregkihlstrom.com. You can also find all my books on Amazon and other retailers. And now on to the show. Today we're going to talk about the role of automation in the workplace and how a hybrid work environment can provide both challenges and opportunities to a more productive and streamlined workplace. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Shawn Herring, Chief Marketing Officer at airSlate, a $1 billion plus tech unicorn and leader in eSignature and workflow automation solutions. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Greg, thank you for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this with you. Why don't we get started by you giving a little background on yourself and your role at airSlate?
A little background would be 20 plus years in marketing, technology. We're a combination of marketing and technology. I've been lucky enough to work for companies that have been acquired, and even gone public. So I've seen a lot in my experience, and currently I have the pleasure of leading the marketing team in the chief marketing role over at airSlate. And I've been here for almost coming up on a year.
Great. Wonderful. Well, so we're here today to talk about the role of automation and some of the opportunities it presents in the workplace. So first, why don't you provide a little more detail about what airSlate does and who your typical customers are, to kind of frame things here.
Yeah, absolutely. We currently have over 100 million users on our platform of solutions. We have 1 million paying customers, but out of that, the hundreds of millions of users that end up using the product, whether it's for free or on trial. And we usually see the best fit for our customers are the prosumer, so professional consumer, SMB, and mid-market size companies. We have a lot of enterprise companies that come in and use our platform of solutions. But what we find is it's really, really good for those companies that are looking to scale, that are looking to become much more efficient, and often are the people making the decision as well as buying the solution, because it's all around getting their documents done. Yeah. Like our platform solutions is all about, we want to provide everything you need to get your documents done, whether it's editing PDFs or creating forms or e-signing documents, even as sophisticated as automating your document workflows. We want to be able to give a point solution or a holistic solution all in one place, depending on your needs. So we find that a lot of people come in for one thing and then end up growing on our platform to needing multiple things, as it goes from just simply editing documents all the way to a sophisticated workflow that has automation built in.
Yeah, got it. And so, for all of these customers, as well as just about any company out there, everyone's been going through some kind of changed work environment, whether that was they started out pre-pandemic fully in the office, and now they're some sort of hybrid or fully remote, or some variation in between. They're most likely working a bit differently than they were a few years ago. So what are some of the challenges that you've seen companies face in this hybrid world of work?
I think a lot of people are, from what we have seen, a lot of our customers give us feedback that it's your office no longer is what it used to be, because your office is interconnected with not only where your workspace is, but those around you. So you have your customers, you have your partners, you have fellow employees. And so everybody is experiencing change because it's like a ripple effect. One of those areas that we're seeing is a lot of people feeling like it seems like it takes a lot more effort to get something done than it used to in the past.
Yeah.
Whether it's, I can't just walk over to that person, or people aren't responding to the email as quickly. We're seeing people really struggle with, why has it become so much harder when we should be so much more efficient, or it should be more simple to get things done with everything being electronic at this point.
Yeah.
And we're finding people are really struggling and feeling like, I keep pushing this boulder up the hill, and I need something that's just going to simplify my life, not give me more work to do.
Yeah.
And that's what we keep hearing from our customers is, if there's any way that you could take out some of this frustration of stuff that I need to get done, I would greatly appreciate it. And we also find that it's not just one type of person. It could be a salesperson. It could be an HR person.
Yeah.
So it's not generalized to one specific department, or even level. We're seeing from individual contributors all the way to executives just struggling with, as the market swings from one side to the other, it might be a boom or it might be a bust, depending on what industry you're in.
Right. Right.
The last thing you want to do is not be able to get your work done.
Yeah, absolutely. So, then to that point, how does automation help solve some of these challenges, help streamline things, and, help companies navigate what seems to be, to your point, a continually changing work environment?
Whether people agree with me or not, I like, as much as you can provide simplicity to people, where automation in particular is really good when you start small.
Yeah.
Start with something that you are doing repetitively, over and over and over, that you could basically go, I wish something could just do A, B, and C for me, that you're doing yourself. And so we find that with, sometimes it's you have to send out an NDA to someone, and you constantly do that over and over and over to your sales rep,
Yeah.
or an onboarding document or something else. But start with small little bite-sized chunks. And automation, you'll start to find it's one of those things that it's like that 1% every day. You'll find out after a month of working towards something that you're like, wow, that used to take me 8 hours a week. I'm spending 8 minutes a week on it now.
Yeah.
But it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is one of those things like working out.
Yeah.
Once you start to build that muscle of automation, then you start to see other opportunities. But we often find people try to go too far and too fast to try to make something extremely sophisticated, and it ends up being extremely complicated. So automation for us has been very much start simple, start small, and then you'll see the snowball effect. Oh, I got that automated. Now I could link it to this.
Yeah.
And what we find with our customers is documents are the core of their business, whether it's internal or external. That's usually the most frustrating part, when you're like, okay, we've agreed on everything. Now let's put it in writing.
Yeah.
That usually is the lag, right? And so if you can automate certain things where it pulls that data for you, or you've already got the template built, and you could just go, hey, while we're on the phone, check your email. I just sent you what we just agreed upon. That makes life so much easier, but it is bite-sized chunks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you touched on something else as well, which is I think once you wrap your head around that automation, on the surface, I know everybody probably understands automation is intended to help people do things better, but once you really wrap your head around that, oh wow, I can apply it in this way, this way, this way, all of a sudden it's kind of, it does kind of snowball, and you can kind of see how all this, how it can continue to help in new and sometimes unexpected ways. To kind of make that real for those listening, can you give an example of how a company's used airSlate in order to achieve some better results in a hybrid environment?
Oh, absolutely. So I've got two. One, our own company, our onboarding process, so our HR team and legal team have basically built a process where I would say probably 90% of it is automated at this point in time, where
Nice.
we have onboarding documents. We have not only things that we need to serve to you, but things that we need to get signed by you, things that we need to then schedule follow-ups with. And what I have found through the onboarding process is it's just really nice to see when you see something coming through and you can't tell if it's automated or not, but it hits at the right time. You don't worry about what's on the back end of that, because you're the user. As I was onboarding, and I was like, oh, this is pretty impressive. Like, these guys are really on the job. And meanwhile, our HR team's like, oh no, that's an automated workflow. I was like, oh,
Okay.
well, it's funny. I didn't even know, and it kind of felt personal, but they've been able to automate so many little things that add up to a lot of time. So that's one example of like an HR team, but like we have a university that has really focused on, they used to send contracts back and forth. The Claremont Graduate University is an example.
Okay.
They used to send them back and forth all the time for faculty to become employed. They'd have to have all kinds of updates on a Word doc getting changed to a different Word doc, getting changed to a different Word doc. And then by the time they were done, they're like, who did what? I can't tell what's going on.
Right.
And it would go from, a single document would take 3 weeks to 2.5 months.
Wow.
They were able to get that down to minutes. And it was just because they figured out all the steps that were involved, and they were able to build it across multiple departments. And by that time, you're going from 3 weeks to a couple months to a couple clicks. And like that kind of example is key, where now everything's signed, everything's done. You got things in folders, and nobody's upset on either end of how frustrating it was, right? Like, oh, you misspelled my name, or who put that in there? I don't know where that's at. Or I signed this document, but you signed that document.
Yeah.
If you've been a part of any kind of process where you signed something or given your information more than once, it tends to get frustrating, especially if you're the i.e. customer.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm trying to give you my money. Why won't you take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can I can empathize with that one for sure. So yeah, let's.
I won't call out any specific profession, but I could just say I've had a couple appointments where I'm like, I've given 6 people the same information.
Right.
How is
right.
this not being captured somewhere? I'll just write it down on a note card and hand it to you guys next time, like a business card.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about the role of automation, more broadly, and how companies can optimize productivity, and as importantly, understand what's working and what isn't with all of this. So, I would imagine any business would agree that greater productivity is a good thing, but they often disagree on how to achieve it. How can they measure the impact of automation in a way that can best highlight the ways to apply it?
We found there's 2 ways. One way is it's saving you time and or money.
Yeah.
The other one is it's making you money or giving you back time, right? So it's one or the other, depending on your perspective. And when we start to look at it, we start to look at how can you scale one person's efforts to make it look like or seem like it's multiple people. And so if you have a single person in HR and they've gone through an onboarding process or legal or whomever, and it takes X amount of time to get 10 people through the process. Well, when you're going to 20, 30, 40 people, can that one person still do that?
Yeah.
Then you look at the savings of, you've just saved yourself headcount, you've just saved yourself time and effort, you saved all that kind of stuff. Or you could look at it from the sales side. You could look at it as, I have sales and marketing side. I have a sales rep that's much more productive. They're spending 8 hours a week prospecting when they used to spend that doing paperwork behind the scenes. And they're making more money. They're hitting their quota. They're actually able to do the sales job, not the paperwork job.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen is we see it on the productivity metrics are more things are getting done with less people that have to, like, it doesn't equate equally, right? I get a lot more done, but I don't have to hire exponentially more people to get it done.
Yeah.
So we find that that's generally the measure of value is people's productivity increases massively when they get a handle on automation.
Before we continue, I'd like to introduce you to a sponsor of the show, Basecamp. Throughout my career, whether it was at my own agency or now as a consultant, Basecamp is what we rely on to help keep projects on track, on schedule, and on budget. It takes a straightforward approach to project management. It streamlines workflow management and definitely keeps the team in the loop and on top of ongoing updates, which all are major components in a smooth running operation. No matter if it's a simple campaign or a multi-million-dollar project, Basecamp has been a key ingredient in the recipe for a successful project and business. If you're struggling with projects, sign up for Basecamp. Their pricing is simple and they give you all their features in a single plan. No upsells, no upgrades. Go to basecamp.com/agile. That's basecamp.com/AGILE and try Basecamp for free. No credit card required and cancel anytime. Thank you, Basecamp, for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get back to the show. So there's also a phenomenon that happens, I'm sure you're aware and listeners are aware as well, which is, okay, something works well in one application, and then the non-strategic way of thinking would be, oh, okay, well, it worked so well there, let's apply it everywhere, and sort of indiscriminately, let's just apply it. Are there times when automation alone is not the answer? Maybe it's a part of the picture, but it's not. It's not the only solution. So the question is, what should companies be looking for in how they apply automation in order to make it most effective?
That's actually it's a very telling question that we've started to see. What's the value behind it? Yeah. The real value.
Yeah.
And we've seen multiple layers. Like, we could talk about what you save or what you make as far as what automation can do. But there's an intrinsic employee value as well.
Yeah.
So you have kind of the hard stuff and the soft stuff. What I've noticed with people that are able to embrace automation and not try to spread it across everything is they really look for those things that are not adding value to their employees.
Yeah.
Generally, you'll hear from your employees, like, what do you spend I usually use this as an example where I'll ask a question of where are you spending your time? Give me a pie chart, ballpark it for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then give me a ballpark on where a pie chart on what are the things that you're doing that provide the most impact. And what you usually see is between those two things, there's a discrepancy. I'm spending a ton of time on things in my first pie chart that didn't make it into my second one.
Yeah.
Why am I spending that much time on that? And that simple kind of exercise doesn't have to be scientific, but it just gets people to open their eyes and go, wow, I'm legitimately doing a lot of stuff that doesn't really move the needle for me at all. And that employee satisfaction, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You can just feel I don't feel like I'm making a difference. Now, we all work for a paycheck, but we also work, to create value for ourselves, to have a purpose. And it's pretty sad when your purpose is just to spend time on stuff that doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So what we find is don't try to apply it to everything. Apply it where it's going to add value to the employee that's doing the work, because you get more value to that employee, they add more value to your organization.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would say this peanut butter approach of let's do everything. Let's automate everything. Well, that's where you get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because maybe you do need to, take a stepwise approach. Maybe you should be looking at things a little bit more descriptively. Maybe everything shouldn't be automated, or maybe you're not ready for it to be automated. That's what I find more often is the case.
Yeah.
Do you actually have a business process that's ready to be automated? You got to go through the questions if then kind of almost like product development. And a lot of people are trying to automate things that they don't know how they happen manually. Well, that's where you get in trouble.
Yeah.
So start with the stuff that's time consuming, yet massively invaluable compared to other things.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that we've seen our customers really, really leverage solutions like ours, is they just go, I'm going to start small, it'll add up, and then I'll spend my time on that other stuff. And they become much happier about it too, because they're like, I finally feel like I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's technology that's truly helping instead of just changing the way that I did stuff for the last 5 years
Yeah.
or however. Like it's truly adding value, and I think that's what all the talk about AI replacing workers or this or that. Any sort of naysayers about automation in general. Like I feel like the truth of the matter is th- that could be done, I guess, but it's not going to work very well. It's the true value is in augmenting what people are doing. And to your point, I think I always think in terms of like the 80-20 rule of, to exactly what you were just saying. It's like 80% of someone's work is probably the least valuable part of, to the company. It's that 20% that is really bringing value. But if they could only get some help with that 80%, man, not only would they be happier, but the company would be more valuable, right? So
Yep.
I think there's something in that.
I would totally agree. I think you're hitting something that's there's this weird thing that we're seeing. You're going to automate a lot of stuff, but also if you start to think about it, a lot of stuff has already been automated for years before now. Think about email. Think about computers. Think about everything else.
Right.
It has changed and it will continue to change. Automation could kill certain things, but it also opens up other things. And there's augmentation in between.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece right now is those that are understanding that automation doesn't have to be scary. Like if you embrace automation, it embraces you.
Yeah.
And you could become a part of it. You could help to build it instead of being the one that gets replaced by it. And have that fear of constantly not know what's happening. And it's really easy. I mean, candidly, there's a lot of things like eSignature is a form of automating a handwritten signature. Well, that's been around for years, decades.
Yeah.
And people are finally starting to embrace it and realizing, oh, it's not putting me out of a job. It's actually helping me with my job.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
How do I do more?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. So last topic I wanted to talk about a little bit here is just I want to talk a little bit about airSlate's success and a little bit about what you see coming down the future of automation. So first thing is airSlate is what's known as a unicorn. So, a company valued at 1 billion or more, and, obviously has achieved a lot of success already. From your perspective, what are some of the unique aspects of the company that has helped create this unicorn and contributed to the success?
There's been a few key things, and actually it was the things that stood out to me in joining this company. This company in particular has been built on this ethos from the founders around efficiency and the people that are involved in it, bringing them along in the process. And when you look at efficiency, how do we acquire customers? What are they going after? How do we learn from it at a really, really data-oriented view? I mean, there's data at this company that I can definitely say we are using for good, but shows so much information about how to improve things, whether it's on how we acquire customers, how we engage with them, how we push things through. But data is at the forefront of everything that this company does. And I think it's allowed us, especially as the market has swung in a different direction for a lot of companies, it's actually allowed us to really start to take advantage of, like, we are at the point where we're pushing forward in this market instead of retreating.
Yeah.
We have an efficient model. We know the unit economics. We understand what it takes to acquire customers in different segments and different areas. And we've really mastered that approach of building and ingratiating that kind of mentality towards everything that we do. So it really pulled me in and intrigued me because it was something that I had seen in other companies, but this company, it was almost like I can get my PhD, I feel like, in marketing by graduating from this, this course that airSlate could teach me about what I didn't know around the data. I think the other part is when I said bring the people along with it, there were a lot of people that I wouldn't say came in and said, I'm an expert at this, but have become experts at different disciplines because of the company's methodology of bringing people up and through a process, and not just saying, well, I've been doing this for 15 years, just trust me. No, the data will tell us.
Yeah.
The data will tell us, the customers will tell us. Like, we don't have a ego about anything if the data tells us something different than what we believe. And that's honestly, like, that is not something I've seen in many other companies.
Yeah.
Companies might have an ego
great.
about how they present or how they brand. Yeah. It's honestly, it's humbling as a marketer, because sometimes you want to say, like, no, we have to do it this way.
Right.
But that's just because I want it to be that way, not because it works for the customer or because the data is telling me. Yeah. It's a very interesting approach that has allowed us to sit firmly where we're at right now and have a very good hold on what's coming, where most companies are really struggling at this point.
That's great. Well, we've talked about, a lot about workplace automation already, but, where do you see the future of workplace automation headed, and how is airSlate positioning itself to be there?
I think the future for us is we can see it very clearly right now across all the different products that we have. There is a massive push. And if it's not a push, the market is pulling it towards automation of the middle office, if you will. All that stuff that happens behind the scenes. Like I've talked about HR and legal or even sales. It's that middle office runs on documents usually. To get stuff done, you have to push documents to different places to really onboard employees or get contracts signed or you name it. Well, all of that is 100% capable of being automated in some way, shape, or form. It's just companies are starting to realize now that it's becoming a must-have instead of a nice-to-have. Those that are realizing that that are just pointing their initiatives towards being more efficient in between what's going on in between departments with documents are seeing they don't need to hire 10 more people. They don't need to have a whole department. Like, each department can kind of manage their own thing, and it becomes much more they're much more efficient on their own.
Yeah.
And they can kind of own their own destiny. So you've seen this whole democratization of software pushing ownership all the way down the org. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is that middle office piece, what you might call the non-sexy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let automation take care of that. And let your people work on the more valuable things. And what we are seeing is a clear, we're painting a target on that for ourselves and going, we are going to be the place that not only automation can happen, but also we're building an ecosystem around it that if you have ideas that allow you to automate something that's not just for your company, but could be a bot that could sit on your automation that maybe takes a signed document and moves it over to a different folder and then kicks off a calendar invite to make sure somebody understands that we're going to have a kickoff meeting. They could do stuff around your documents.
Yeah.
That's where we see the future right now, is let the automation do the work for you when it comes to that middle office piece.
That's great. Well, one last question before we wrap up. You've given a lot of great advice already on this show, but what's one piece of advice you would have for companies that may be struggling to achieve their pre-COVID levels of productivity, and so looking for solutions to increase productivity as they navigate the months ahead?
I honestly believe the exercise of doing for yourself as well as for your team, listing out where you see a lot of time being spent, and then listing out where the most valuable things are that you could be doing. And wherever there's a big delta between the two, those are the areas that you could probably fix with solutions, whether it's airSlate or others like ours. It's all there in front of you. You just need to see it. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest thing is, what do you see your time being spent on? Really, really take a look at that, because you will find that you might think it can't be automated, but I can tell you almost anything can. So don't hide from it, embrace it.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice there. Well, Shawn, thanks so much for joining the show. For those listening, what's the best way for them to keep up with what you and airSlate are doing?
I'd say mostly you can look at LinkedIn. We're starting to really ramp up our activities on LinkedIn and our social accounts. So you have airSlate. We have other products called Sign Now, US Legal, PDF Filler, and .co under our portfolio of solutions. So on any of those, but I would say most likely on LinkedIn is where you're going to see the most valuable information.
Wonderful. Well, again, I'd like to thank Shawn Herring, Chief Marketing Officer at airSlate, for joining the show. Talk with you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.gregkihlstrom.com. That's GregKihlstrom.com. To get a copy of my latest book, House of the Customer, visit my website, or you can find it on Amazon or other retailers. The Agile Brand is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Until next time, stay agile.